The guilt you feel about that piece of chocolate does more damage to your body than the chocolate itself ever could. The shame you carry about enjoying a croissant creates more stress in your system than the butter and flour combined. The anxiety you experience around food choices inflicts more harm on your well-being than any single meal you could possibly consume. This is not hyperbole, this is science, this is psychology. And this is the profound truth that will liberate you from the prison of food anxiety forever. I'm Jules, and I've got your raw daily fuel for today. Today, we explore something the wellness industry desperately doesn't want you to understand, that your relationship with food is a mirror of your relationship with yourself. That pleasure is not the enemy of health, it's the pathway to it. That the French have understood something for centuries that the rest of the world is only beginning to discover. When you truly enjoy food, you need less of it to feel satisfied. We are going to examine why guilt creates more physiological damage than any food ever could, how mindful eating naturally reduces overconsumption, and why giving yourself permission to enjoy removes the psychological obsession that keeps you trapped in food drama. Because food is three things simultaneously: fuel, pleasure, and culture. All three are valid. All three are necessary. And all three can coexist beautifully when you understand the psychology of true nourishment. Let me share something with you that will change how you think about food forever. When you eat something while feeling guilty about it, your body experiences that meal as stress. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between the stress of eating something you think you shouldn't and the stress of running from danger. The physiological response is identical. Your heart rate increases, your cortisol levels spike, your digestive system becomes compromised because blood flow is redirected away from digestion and toward your muscles, preparing you to fight or flee from the threat of enjoying food. Your body literally cannot properly digest, absorb, or metabolize nutrients when you're in a state of food-related stress. This means that when you eat a perfectly nutritious salad while feeling guilty about the dressing, your body receives less benefit from that salad than if you ate a piece of cake while completely relaxed and present. The stress response triggered by guilt actively interferes with your body's ability to extract nourishment from whatever you're consuming. Consider this carefully. The psychological damage of guilt compounds every single time you eat. If you experience food guilt 3 times a day, you're subjecting your nervous system to stress 3 times a day, every day. This chronic, low-level stress creates inflammation, disrupts sleep, interferes with hormone production, and weakens your immune system. Meanwhile, that piece of cake you feel guilty about, it's metabolized and eliminated from your system within hours. The guilt, however, can last for days, weeks, or even years. Which one is truly damaging your health? Now, let me introduce you to a concept that will revolutionize your eating experience. Mindful eating naturally creates satisfaction with smaller quantities of food. When you truly pay attention to what you're eating, when you taste every bite, notice every texture, appreciate every aroma, your brain receives clear signals about what you're consuming. This is not some mystical concept. This is how your satiety mechanisms are designed to function. Your brain needs time to register fullness, and it needs sensory information to gauge satisfaction. When you eat while distracted, rushed, or guilty, these natural mechanisms don't work properly. But when you eat with complete presence and enjoyment, something remarkable happens. You become naturally attuned to your body's signals. You notice when you've had enough, not because you've cleared your plate, but because you feel genuinely satisfied. You discover that a small portion of something truly delicious is more fulfilling than a large portion of something you're eating out of obligation. In France, we have a saying, il vaut mieux manger peu et bien que beaucoup et mal. It's better to eat a little and well than a lot and poorly. This isn't about restricting quantity. It's about maximizing quality of experience. When every bite is savored, every bite counts. This brings us to a profound psychological principle. Food is fuel, pleasure, and culture, and all three aspects are equally valid and necessary for complete nourishment. The modern wellness culture has created a hierarchy where fuel is virtuous, pleasure is suspect, and culture is ignored entirely. This is not only wrong, it's psychologically damaging. Your body needs fuel, nutrients, energy, building blocks for cellular repair and growth. But your soul needs pleasure. Beauty, sensory delight, moments of pure enjoyment that remind you that life is worth living. And your spirit needs culture, connection to heritage, community rituals, as shared experiences that root you in something larger than yourself. When you honor only one aspect while suppressing the other, you create internal conflict. When you eat purely for fuel while denying pleasure, you develop resentment toward food and eventually rebel. When you eat purely for pleasure while ignoring nutritional needs, you feel physically unwell and develop guilt. When you ignore the cultural significance of food, you disconnect from community and tradition. True nourishment integrates all three. Sometimes you eat primarily for fuel, a simple, nutritious meal that energizes your body. Sometimes you eat primarily for pleasure, an exquisite dish that delights your senses. Sometimes you eat primarily for culture, sharing your grandmother's recipe with loved ones. Most often you eat for all three simultaneously. This integration requires what I call intelligent permission, the ability to make conscious choices about when and how to prioritize each aspect of nourishment. This is not giving yourself permission to eat anything, anytime without thought. This is giving yourself permission to be a conscious, intelligent being who can navigate food choices without external rules dictating what's right or wrong. Here's where we encounter one of the most powerful psychological principles in human behavior, the forbidden fruit effect. When something is prohibited, it becomes more desirable. When something is restricted, it occupies more mental space. When something is labeled as bad, it gains psychological power over you. This is why diets that forbid certain foods often lead to obsessive thinking about those very foods. The restriction creates psychological pressure that builds until it explodes into overconsumption. You don't binge on foods you're allowed to have anytime you want them. You binge on foods you've been denying yourself. When you give yourself genuine permission to enjoy all foods, the psychological charge around forbidden foods dissipates. So when you know you can have chocolate anytime you want it, chocolate stops occupying so much mental real estate. When you know you can eat pizza whenever you choose to, pizza stops calling to you from every advertisement. This permission must be complete to be effective. Have permission, I can eat this but I shouldn't, maintains the restriction and therefore maintains the obsession. True permission is, I am an adult human being capable of making intelligent choices about what I eat, when I eat it, and how much I eat. Now I want to share with you the deepest truth about food psychology. Your relationship with food is a perfect mirror of your relationship with yourself. How you treat food is how you treat yourself. How you speak about your eating choices is how you speak to yourself. How you respond to your food desires reflects how you respond to all your desires. If you are critical and judgmental about your food choices, you are likely critical and judgmental about other aspects of yourself. If you use food to punish yourself, you probably punish yourself in other areas of your life. If you cannot trust yourself around food, you likely struggle with self-trust in other domains. Conversely, when you develop a loving, respectful, intelligent relationship with food, this transformation ripples out into every area of your life. When you learn to listen to your body's hunger and fullness signals, you become better at listening to all your body's signals. When you learn to enjoy food without guilt, you learn to enjoy other pleasures without shame. This is why healing your relationship with food is never really just about food. It's about healing your relationship with yourself. It's about developing the capacity for self-trust, self-compassion, and intelligent self-care. Let me tell you about what we call the French paradox. Not the dietary one you may have heard about, but the psychological one. In French culture, we prioritize pleasure in our relationship with food. We take time to prepare meals beautifully. We sit down to eat without distraction. We savor every bite. We enjoy rich foods in moderation rather than avoiding them entirely. And here's what happens when pleasure is prioritized. It naturally self-regulates. When you truly enjoy what you're eating, you don't need to eat massive quantities to feel satisfied. When you're present with your food, you notice subtle signals of fullness. When you're not fighting guilt while eating, you can focus on the actual experience of eating. The paradox is that prioritizing pleasure leads to better choices, not worse ones. When you know you're going to sit down and truly enjoy your meal, you become more selective about what deserves that level of attention. You choose quality over quantity because quality provides more pleasure per bite. But when pleasure is forbidden or guilt-inducing, you end up eating quickly, mindlessly, secretively, trying to get as much pleasure as possible before the guilt kicks in. This leads to overconsumption, poor digestion, and psychological distress. The path to food freedom is not through restriction or rules or complicated protocols. It's through developing what the French call savoir-vivre, the knowledge of how to live well. This includes knowing how to eat well, which means eating with intelligence, pleasure, and presence. Here's how you begin to transform your relationship with food and, by extension, with yourself. Start with 1 meal per day, just one, and practice eating it with complete presence and zero guilt. Choose something you genuinely enjoy. Sit down at a table, put away all distractions. Look at your food, notice its colors, textures, aromas. Take your first bite slowly. Chew thoroughly. Notice how the flavors change as you chew. Pay attention to how the food feels in your mouth, how it makes your body feel as you swallow. Eat at a pace that allows you to actually taste what you're consuming. If guilt arises, and it probably will at first, acknowledge it without judgment. I notice guilt arising, then remind yourself this is nourishment, this is pleasure, this is life. I am allowed to enjoy this experience. Return your attention to the sensory experience of eating. Notice how much food it takes to feel satisfied when you're truly present. Notice how different foods affect your energy and mood when you eat them mindfully. Notice how much more enjoyable eating becomes when it's not accompanied by shame. Practice this with 1 meal per day for 1 week. Don't try to change what you eat, just change how you eat it. Focus on presence, pleasure, and gratitude for the nourishment you're receiving. What you'll discover is that mindful, guilt-free eating naturally leads to better choices without effort or willpower. When you truly taste your food, you begin to prefer foods that taste good and make you feel good. When you're present with your eating, you naturally stop when you're satisfied rather than when your plate is empty. This is not about becoming a perfect eater, this is about becoming a conscious one. This is about reclaiming your birthright as a human being to enjoy the simple pleasure of nourishing your body without shame, guilt, or anxiety. Food is one of life's great pleasures. It connects us to the earth, to our cultures, to each other, and to ourselves. When we approach it with intelligence and appreciation rather than fear and restriction, it becomes a source of joy and vitality rather than stress and conflict. You deserve to eat without guilt. You deserve to enjoy the sensory pleasure of beautiful, delicious food. You deserve to trust yourself to make intelligent choices about nourishment. This is unselfish, it's necessary for a life well lived. When you free yourself from food guilt, you free yourself to be fully present with one of the most basic and essential human experiences. You model for others what a healthy relationship with food looks like. You contribute to a culture that values pleasure and presence over anxiety and restriction. This is your invitation to savor your life, one mindful, guilt-free bite at a time. That's your raw daily fuel for today. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. We're here every day to remind you that life is meant to be lived with pleasure, presence, and intelligence. Bon appétit. I'm Jules. Savor everything.